Centaurs are pretty cool when you think about it. They're like this wild mix of a person and a horse. They've got all the messy, complicated stuff we deal with as humans, but they're also kind of like nature in its purest, untamed form. For the longest time, people have been telling stories about them, painting them, and just trying to figure out what they're all about. They're like a reminder that we've all got a bit of that wild side, but we're trying to keep it together and be civilized too. Centaurs have always been a bit of a mystery, haven't they? Wrapped up in all those old stories and myths, it's hard to pin down exactly where they come from. But there's this one tale that a lot of folks seem to like. It's about this human king, Ixion, who got a little too bold and tried to hit on Hera, who was basically the queen of all the gods. Zeus, her husband, wasn't having any of it, so he played a trick on Ixion by making a cloud look just like Hera. Well, Ixion fell for it and, long story short, that's how we got centaurs, at least according to the myth. They're like a mix of the two, part human, part horse, and they're a reminder of what can happen when people get a bit too full of themselves. It's one of those wild tales from the past that stuck around, probably because it's got a bit of everything: romance, deception, and a touch of magic. There's this tale that says they might have come from a guy named Centaurus. He's said to be the kid of Apollo, yeah, the sun god, and Stilbe, who was this lovely nymph. The story goes that Centaurus got together with some horses in Magnesia, and voila, the first centaurs were born. They ended up being part human and part horse because of their mixed family tree. Pretty wild, huh? Centaurs are really interesting creatures, aren't they? They're like a mix of humans and horses, which puts them somewhere in between the wild, instinct-driven life of animals and the thoughtful, aware world of humans. It's like they've got one hoof in the untamed wilds of nature, but they also have a touch of human smarts and self-awareness. Centaurs? Yeah, they're usually shown as pretty wild and out of control, often getting drunk, picking fights, and just causing a lot of trouble. They're like the complete opposite of what the ancient Greeks thought was important, being logical, keeping yourself under control, and not going overboard with anything. So, in a lot of those old stories, centaurs are the bad guys, getting into all sorts of scraps with gods, the big heroes, and even regular people. Oh, have you heard about that wild story with the centaurs? So, there was this huge fight called the Centauromachy, which is just a fancy name for the throwdown that happened at a wedding. Picture this: the centaurs, which are those half-horse, half-human creatures, were invited to King Pirithous' wedding. He was the big shot of the Lapiths, who were just regular folks from Thessaly. Now, everything was going fine until the centaurs had a bit too much to drink. You know how some wedding guests can get. Well, these guys tried to kidnap the bride. Can you believe it? As you can imagine, that didn't sit well with the Lapiths, and all hell broke loose. This whole mess has been talked about in stories and shown in art for ages. It's kind of like a symbol of what happens when wildness crashes a civilized party, or when things get out of control. It's like when your family reunion turns into a food fight. It starts fun, but someone's always going to end up with gravy in their hair. Oh, Chiron is a pretty cool character from those old Greek myths. He's not like the other wild centaurs, he's super smart and kind, and he's famous for being a great healer. Plus, he's like the ultimate mentor, teaching big-name heroes like Achilles and Hercules. Chiron's like the good guy among the centaurs, showing that being thoughtful and caring is way better than just being tough and wild. In Greek myths, centaurs are these half-horse, half-human creatures that pop up a lot. They're mixed in with all the big-name heroes and gods, sometimes helping them out and other times causing trouble. Take Chiron, for example. He's one of the good guys, super smart and kind. But then you've got some centaurs who just can't seem to behave, acting on impulse and causing chaos. Oh, have you heard about that wild story with Hercules and the half-horse guy, Nessus? So, Hercules was this big, strong hero, right? And there was this time he had to save a lady named Diana from Nessus, who was up to no good, trying to take her away. Hercules wasn't having any of that, so he shot Nessus with one of his poison-tipped arrows. But here's the twist: before Nessus kicked the bucket, he pulled a fast one that ended up causing a whole lot of trouble for Hercules later on. And then there's Theseus, the guy who was like the big shot king of Athens. He had his fair share of run-ins with centaurs too. He was always off on some crazy adventure, fighting creatures in labyrinths or taking on challenges in the wild. Centaurs just seemed to pop up wherever he went. It's like they were part of the hero package or something. If you're as hooked on ancient stories as we are, you'll want to keep up with all the cool stuff we've got coming. Go ahead and click subscribe to make sure you don't miss out. Enjoyed the video? A quick thumbs up from you would mean the world to us. And hey, we'd love to hear what you think, so drop us a comment below. Let's keep the conversation going and dive into more awesome mythology together. Stick around and let's explore these epic tales as a team.